My name is Zan, and I live in Oregon, and I've been spinning for, I think, 11 years now. Well, I was traveling through South America with my brother. Well, I had seen it in fire dancing performance before, and it had seemed very unattainable, like, you know, fire dancers, they're so amazing, those people. And then I tried it, and I was like, oh, I could get very good at this. I can see that if I just do this every day, and that kind of opened the doorway. I have a very analytical mind. I studied mathematics. And so I would meet someone and they'd say, oh, well, I have this one little move or technique. And it would be a little piece. And I'd say, oh, great. Well, now I'm going to apply that to each of the techniques that I have and see what happens when I combine them or transition them and very systematically go through an exhaustive set of possibilities and then try to limit it down by saying, well, which of these are really worthwhile or aesthetically pleasing. The Freestyle Fire Poi video was the first video I ever posted on YouTube. I was probably using iMovie or something. I was like, okay, well, what can I do? Okay, put this in, and oh, I need a musical track, and I like used GarageBand samples and like made that kind of funky sounding basic electronic thing. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna put up a video, and that was the first one I put up. And it didn't really get viral popularity for a while, I feel like. And if it dates it very well, I posted it first onto MySpace, I think was like where that video went out. And then eventually it just got linked and linked and linked, and it started to go from there. And I started to think about coming back to the US and what I would do when I got there. I'd been traveling for about 18 months continuously. And the idea came about of putting this information down in a way that other people could access. And the name Encyclopedia came afterwards. When I was like, well, what should I call this? It has this encyclopedic nature. It's very much, it reflected a lot who I was and how I thought at that time. The Encyclopedia, when it released, kind of launched my touring and the beginning of the notoriety for sure. I started doing workshop tours, and so that was the first time that a lot of people had met me, and I was just trying to get the video out there and let people know that it was available. And there wasn't a very strong network at that time. People knew about each other, but it was very grassroots. Like I would call someone in that area and talk to them about setting this up. And then after a while, a lot of people knew who I was. And a lot of encyclopedias got out there, maybe 5,000 of them by now, which seems pretty good. I mean, that's more people than I could have taught in person by a fair margin. Then what followed was kind of a weird phase of being extremely famous in a very limited subculture. Of course, walking down the street, nobody would know who I was, but in a circle of fire spinners, then that kind of strange idolization thing happened. And my main goal was to break down that barrier and just like have a real connection with somebody. The video I released from Arizona called Poi Transmission is probably my favorite video that I've made too. So we all met up in Tempe, Arizona. And I said, well, great, let's go shoot some footage. I had my camera and my Poi, and we went to Papago Park in Phoenix. And I just recorded John for a while. But I'd played around with editing, and I knew that I could do the trails and stuff like that. And so I said, okay, that's a really good shot. There's good contrast. Do a trick that'll look great with tracers. And then he would do the Mercedes or the triquetra versus extension or something. And then I said, okay, that's perfect. And he had been playing around with the simulation, and he showed me some of these really basic simulations, the old green and blue ones. And I said, great, why don't you send me the image files and I'll superimpose them? I think it was a new representation that was like, oh, I understand that pattern better. A lot of the challenge was not a physical challenge with the new moves, but a mental challenge. You had to deepen your understanding in order to be able to clean it up and present it as such. So the simulations became the key to that. And that was certainly the doorway into the Encyclopedia too, was, boy, that was a wonderful video. We should work together more. And there was significantly more at the time. That marked the takeoff of the global culture and the internet and there was a lot more development at the time. But we tried to present everything as if, oh, this is Poi, try to learn this, without saying this is hard or no one else can do this. And I think it really helped because it became the foundation for what a lot of people think of as Poi. You know, anti-spin extension hybrids, we just do that, that's normal. It's like, good, it worked, because it was really hard back then. You know, that was the cutting edge at that time. It was also, actually, Encyclopedia 2, I kind of conceived of as in a way, my parting with Poi technique. I was tired of trying to stay up at the cutting edge of Poi, because it keeps developing. It's never going to stop. And so you can only be there for a while, and if you want to stay there, you have to work really hard. And I decided consciously that I didn't, that I wasn't that interested, and that I would happily allow other people to get better than me and learn new things, but that I kind of wanted to lock in the step that I was at, like press save, right? People saw that and took off with those ideas and created more amazing things that we couldn't have conceived of at the time. But there was even more of a shift into, this is what Poi is. We want to create more in-depth geometry. We want to have crazier shapes, take longer to complete. And there's a focus on a shift in, it's more geared towards spinners than it is towards other people. Well, we're not really interested in what you want to see per se. This is what I think is cool. But it has separated a lot of the technicians from the professionals, because professional means, in a sense, doing what other people want to some extent. And so if we see a really tightly choreographed performance that uses basic technique and is geared towards a general audience, we go, oh yeah, whatever, that's like, it's so corporate. But that's the kind of routine that people want. It's like multiple people synchronized perfectly doing the windmill, right? It's like amazing. And at each step, I'm kind of, in my view, broadening the potential of how I can influence people. So now I'm teaching people, so maybe hundreds of people have learned to spin Poi from me, maybe over 1,000. But now I've made videos. Now 10,000 people have learned to spin Poi from videos that I've created. But then the next step was, okay, someone else can fill that role, and what can I do to offer more? And so I can organize a lot of people, I can help manage a lot of people, I can coordinate seemingly difficult things, I can handle the world of insurance and contracts, and somebody needs to do that. And very few people like it, and very few people want to do it. And I don't really like it, but I know how, and it doesn't seem particularly difficult to me at this point. So I've had people meet me now, and they say, your name is Zan? I say, yeah. And they're like, Zan's Diamond? Is that you? I say, yeah. And they say, I didn't think that was a real person. I've been thinking perhaps more than ever about the state of our culture and what its boundaries and limitations are, and what the future and directions are. So my outlook has changed quite a bit. And so to some extent, I think we're unnecessarily funneling people into the idea that, good, you're getting good, you should start a troupe. You should make money with this. You should be a professional, because it distances you from the passionate element for many. So how can we develop the culture in such a way that it can support more people doing it as their livelihood without being a professional entertainer? And how can we encourage more people to really be passionate hobbyists? Because, to be honest, passionate hobbyists are what keep the industry afloat. People will respect the flow arts more if there are really high-level, upstanding, contributing citizens who say that that was the cause of their transition. It will become more appealing to the masses, much more than if we just try to look cool or dress in a specific way or play with fire all the time. I appreciate that subtle level of seeing how the threads of knowledge have interwoven to create the tapestry that exists now, and just little glimpses of where my contributions were in the past that led up to that. The path to being an amazing flow artist is not by any means laid out clearly, and that it's by being selective that we can really generate our individual style. No single person has to learn everything that there is, because you're, in the end, not trying to be like anybody else. You're trying to be like yourself, but at a level that you can't imagine yet.